There is a number that grew quietly, month after month, while almost nobody was watching. It is $1.34 trillion. That is what Americans now owe on their credit cards. Not mortgages, not car loans, not student debt, just the little rectangle of plastic that lives in your wallet. Today, that number takes the witness stand, and by the end of this, you are going to know exactly what it has been hiding, and what to do about it in your own life, starting tonight. Welcome back to Cash on Trial, where we put one number on the stand and make it tell the truth. No opinions, no panic, just the data, cross-examined. I'm your host, and tonight's defendant is something the economists call revolving consumer credit. That is the formal name for the credit card balances that roll over from one month to the next, the part you do not pay off. Here is the evidence. For decades, this line climbed the way you would expect. More people, higher prices, the line drifts up. Nothing alarming. But watch what happens after 2021. It does not drift, it launches. In roughly 4 years, American households piled on close to $500 billion in new card debt. We sailed right past the old record set before the 2008 financial crisis, and we kept going. By the spring of 2026, the balance touched $1.35 trillion, an all-time high, before easing back a hair to 1.34. Now, I want to be fair to the defendant because a big number by itself is not a crime. There are more Americans than there were in 1990. Prices are higher, so of course the total is bigger. That is just arithmetic, and the defense is right to say so, which is exactly why we do not convict on the size of the balance alone. A large number can be perfectly innocent. So we call our second witness, the one that actually tells us whether people are in trouble. The balance tells you how much is owed. This next number tells you whether people can actually pay it. It is called the delinquency rate, the share of credit card debt where the borrower has fallen at least 30 days behind. When people can comfortably handle their debt, this number stays low. When they cannot, it climbs. It is, in a sense, the pulse of the American wallet. Households were genuinely drowning, the financial crisis and the early pandemic. When this line spikes, it means millions of families have stopped being able to keep up. It is one of the most honest numbers in all of economics, because nobody falls 30 days behind on their credit card on purpose. For a couple of years after 2021, this line sat unusually low, down around 1.5%, because of stimulus checks and pandemic savings that padded people's accounts. But then, quietly, with no headline and no alarm bell, it started to climb. It roughly doubled. As of the beginning of 2026, it sits near 2.9%. Now, here is where I have to be honest with you, because being honest is the entire point of this channel. 2.9% is not 2009's 6.7. We are not standing in the wreckage of a financial crisis. I am not going to sit here and tell you the sky is falling, because it is not, and fear is the cheapest thing on the internet. But look again at the direction of that line. It is pointed up, and it is pointed up during what is supposed to be a calm, healthy economy. That is the tell. In finance, trouble almost always shows up in the delinquency data before it ever shows up on the evening news. Households feel it first. The headlines come later. So how did tens of millions of careful, hardworking people end up here? 3 culprits, and not one of them is what the credit card companies would like you to believe, which is that you simply lack discipline. The first culprit is prices. From 2021 through 2024, the cost of the ordinary things, groceries, rent, car insurance, a visit to the doctor, rose faster than most paychecks did. And when the money runs short in the last week of the month, the card is what fills the gap. That is not a character flaw. That is a family covering the distance between what they earn and what life now costs. It is arithmetic again, and the arithmetic got harder. The second culprit is the one that should genuinely make you angry, and it is the interest rate on that borrowed money. The average credit card in America now charges more than 20% a year. Let that sit for a second. 20%. There is no safe, legal investment on the planet that reliably pays you 20% a year. but your credit card charges exactly that to you every single year on money you already spent. On a $5,000 balance, 22% is more than $1,000 a year, gone, in interest alone, before you have paid down one single dollar of the television or the car repair or the groceries you actually bought. You are not paying for the thing anymore. You are paying rent on your own past. And the third culprit is the quietest and the most cunning, and it is the minimum payment. The credit card company is not just willing for you to pay only the minimum each month, they are delighted by it. They designed it. Because when you pay only the minimum on a high balance, the interest very nearly keeps pace with your payment, and the thing you bought quietly doubles in cost over the years. A $5,000 purchase paid at the minimum can easily become $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 before it is finally gone. The minimum payment is not a courtesy. It is the business model. Now, some of you are already asking the right question. If a 22% interest rate is so punishing, how on earth is it legal? For most of American history, it would not have been. States had laws called usury caps, going back centuries, that made it a crime to charge more than a set rate on a loan, 10%, 12%. The idea, older than this country, was that lending money at crushing rates to desperate people was a form of harm the law should prevent. So what changed? In 1978, a case reached the Supreme Court of the United States, Marquette National Bank versus First of Omaha, and the court handed down a ruling that quietly rewired the entire consumer credit system. It decided that a bank could charge the interest rate allowed by the state where the bank was located, not the state where you, the customer, actually lived. Read that again because it is the whole game. The bank's home state, not yours. And the banks are not slow. Within a few years, states like South Dakota and Delaware simply erased their usury caps altogether and invited the credit card companies to move in and set up shop. The banks packed up and relocated their card operations to those states, and from that address, they could now legally charge any interest rate they wanted to a customer in any state in the union. The centuries-old protection, the usury cap, was still on the books in your state. It just no longer applied to your credit card. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is the documented history of how the number on your statement got permission to climb past 20%. The cap did not get repealed by your vote. It got routed around by a court case and a corporate zip code. I tell you this not to make you cynical, but to make you clear-eyed. Because once you understand that the 22% is not a law of nature, it is a business arrangement built by specific decisions that specific people made, you stop feeling that the debt is a personal moral failing, and you start seeing it for what it is, a price. And prices can be negotiated, refused, and beaten. Let me step out of the charts for a moment, because behind every one of these data points is a kitchen table. This is the part the delinquency rate does not capture. It is the quiet arithmetic that a good, responsible person runs at 11 o'clock at night. Which bill can wait, which one cannot? What happens if the car needs brakes this month? It is the reason a number on a Federal Reserve chart matters at all. If you are carrying a balance right now, I want you to hear this clearly. It does not mean you failed. It means you are one of many, many millions of people who got caught between prices that rose and wages that did not, and who used the only tool the system handed you to bridge the gap. The shame that the industry quietly wants you to feel, that shame is not yours to carry. But the math you can absolutely take back, and that is what the rest of this is about. So what is the verdict? The number is guilty, not of lying, the balance is exactly what it is, but of hiding in plain sight. $1.34 trillion at more than 20% interest, with more households slipping behind every single quarter during a supposedly healthy economy. This is the quiet emergency in American household finance, and almost nobody is naming it out loud, but a verdict with no remedy is useless. So here is your sentence. 4 steps, and you can begin the first one tonight before you go to bed. Step 1. Find your real interest rate, not the balance. The balance you probably know by heart. I mean the APR, the actual percentage. Pull out your most recent statement and hunt for it. It is usually buried near the bottom, in small print, and most people have honestly never looked. Knowing that one number is the first act of taking back control, because you cannot fight what you refuse to look at. Step 2. Attack the highest rate card first. If you carry a balance on more than one card, throw every extra dollar you can find at the one with the biggest interest rate while paying the minimum on the rest. Then when that one is gone, roll everything on to the next highest. Mathematically, this saves you the most money of any method. It has a name, the avalanche, and it works because it starves the most expensive debt first. Step 3. Pick up the phone and ask for a lower rate. This one works far more often than people believe, and it costs you nothing but 5 minutes and a little nerve. Call the number on the back of the card and say one sentence. I have been a customer for years. I would like a lower interest rate, or I am going to move my balance somewhere else. Retention departments have real room to say yes because the one thing they do not want is to lose you. A single phone call has saved people hundreds of dollars a year. Make the call. Step 4. If the balance is large and the rate is brutal, look seriously at a balance transfer card with a 0% introductory period or a fixed-rate personal loan from a credit union. Trading a 22% card for a 7% loan is not a gimmick, and it is not too good to be true. It is simply refusing to overpay for money. Read the terms, watch for the transfer fee, and do the arithmetic, but for the right person, it turns years of struggle into a clear, finite payoff. Before we close, let me clear away 3 myths, because these are the quiet beliefs that keep good people stuck for years longer than they need to be. The first myth: carrying a small balance helps your credit score. It does not. This is one of the most expensive pieces of folk wisdom in America. You do not need to carry debt and pay interest on it to build credit. Using your card and paying it off in full every month builds your score just fine. The balance you carry helps exactly one party, and it is not you. The second myth: I will just pay it off when things settle down. Here is the hard truth in that gentle sentence. At 22% interest, things settling down is precisely what the math is designed to prevent. Every month you wait, the interest compounds against you. The best day to start was last year. The second best day is tonight, not when things settle. Now, in small steps, while the balance is smaller than it will ever be again. The third myth: this is my fault and mine alone. We spent a whole section on this, but it bears repeating, because shame is the most effective debt collector ever invented. Shame keeps you from opening the statement, it keeps you from making the phone call, it keeps you quiet, and a quiet, ashamed customer who pays the minimum forever is the single most profitable customer a card company can have. Refusing the shame is not just good for your peace of mind, it is a financial strategy. Here is the thing the banks never say out loud: they want debt to feel normal, permanent, just the way things are, the weather of adult life, nothing to be done, and it simply is not true. Every one of these numbers, the balance, the rate, the minimum payment, every one of them can be turned around, one statement at a time, by an ordinary person at a kitchen table who decided to look. That is the whole idea of this channel. We are not here to frighten you with a scary number. We are here to hand you the gavel. Because the goal was never to be afraid of the 1.34 trillion. The goal is to be the one holding the verdict. If this helped you see your own wallet a little more clearly, subscribe. We put a new number on trial every single day. And take that first step tonight. Find your rate. That is all. Court is adjourned.